Hello and welcome to Sew Me Sarah. This is my channel. I'm Sarah and this channel is all about my stitching adventures. Today it will be all about cross stitch, but sometimes I have some other needle crafts to share with you as well. You're very welcome to my channel and I hope that you will like and subscribe and stick around to see what else happens on my stitchy journeys. It has been too long since I joined you and I have been missing you. Last week was just difficult and I didn't get round to recording, and it has taken me all week to get some space to be able to come back and join you, but I'm glad that I have. I'm hoping there won't be too many interruptions this morning. I have a little bit of time while Alan and Charlotte are out of the house, and Andrew, who is home from university, appears to have become nocturnal. So whilst it's daylight hours, we're not likely to see him or be interrupted by him. But you know, as soon as you start to record, you know, he will become diurnal. Anyway, here's hoping for not too many interruptions, and I'm glad to be back sharing with you today. Thank you to those of you who are new subscribers and who commented to let me know that. It's always fun to know that there are new folks watching, especially if I see the numbers of my subscribers creeping up, but I don't notice any new names in the comments, then I don't know who you are. So it is lovely that some of you took the time to say hello, to say that it was your first time visiting, and I'm very pleased to hear that you want to come back again. So I hope that you enjoy continuing on this journey with me, and please keep up the conversation because that's all part of the fun here on the channel. I want to share with you some of my good fortune in the last couple of weeks. So I think it was just after my last video, there was a draw on, sorry, there's cat movement outside and they're not my cats. So I just got distracted there. So I wanted to share some of my good fortune with you. Since the last video, I have been a winner and a recipient of some lovely Happy Mail. So first of all, I won this beautiful design from Deb at Frog Cottage Designs. She had a giveaway on her she had a giveaway on her YouTube channel. So I will link that below. All the information as usual will be linked below in the show notes if you're interested in anything today. So this is one of Deb's recent releases. I think it might have been for market or maybe just before market, but in and around then. And it is called Thankful, as you can see, and it's beautiful. So she had a little giveaway and I won. I felt a little bit guilty because it's not very long since I won another chart on Deb's channel, but she was very gracious and sent that along. So I highly recommend checking out Deb's shop, her website, and again I'll link that below for you too. She has some really very tasteful and beautiful designs, and I really like what I see there. So keep an eye on that and go on and watch her, follow her YouTube channel as well, and give her a little bit of support and encouragement. So thank you, Deb, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for sending this through when I did win. So I'll try not to enter any more giveaways for a while and give other people a chance. Excuse me. And then just the other day, there was a knock on the door and the postman had put something through, and it was this envelope from the FAC order shop, which was curious because I knew that I hadn't ordered anything from the FAC order shop, but needed to convince hubby that I hadn't ordered anything from the FAC order shop. But anyway, when I opened the parcel, I was so excited because inside was a copy of Hive Rules, which, as you may remember, is one of the many charts that was released this year at market, and one of the many that I liked. So a very, very sweet and kind viewer, Lisa E, ordered this for me and had it delivered from FAC order shop. So Lisa, This is amazing, amazing. I love it. I have been thinking about bee stitching, and you'll see that when I show some of my own stitching this in this video. Next, I received a mystery envelope from the Fat Quarter Shop, and I knew that I hadn't ordered anything from the Fat Quarter Shop, so I was very curious and opened it toot sweet to find that inside was a copy of Hive Rules by Folk Cottage Designs. This, as you may remember, is one of the market releases that I particularly liked, and it was sent to me by Lisa E, who very, very sweetly ordered it from Fat Quarter Shop and sent it along just as a thank you for this channel. And if I feel very undeserving, and I am very undeserving because I do this because I get a lot out of my channel, and you guys don't need to say thank you in any way. It's lovely when you leave comments and I know that you're enjoying it. You do not need to be sending gifts, but it's very much appreciated, Lisa, and I love it. I have been thinking about bee stitching, and just 3 or 4 days before this arrived, I actually started a bee stitch, which I'll show you whenever I get to my stitching in a few minutes. But I really love it, and I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that you would order this and have it sent to me, and thank you so much. Really thank you so much. There's no need. There's really no need, but it's very appreciated. Thank you, Lisa. And you know, I'm going to struggle not to start this sometime soon. And then I had a lovely little surprise from Kerry, who lives in Scotland. And Kerry and I have been in touch about stitchy matters and we were emailing, and she sent me a little package this week which contains lots of bits and bobs as she described them, but they're so useful and lovely. It's like a little stitchy care package. So she sent me a copy of the latest World of Cross Stitching magazine, which is always really nice to have a flick through while you're having a cup of coffee, you know, in case you've run out of floss tubes to watch or stitching to do. Isn't this clock pretty? So thank you, Kerry. I will enjoy that with my cuppa. And Kerry also included some bobbins. So yeah, just calm yourselves. I know that not everybody loves bobbins, but I am a bobbinator, so these will be put to good use, Kerry, thank you. And then there's this very sweet little oil floss holder, which I think you're supposed to cross stitch in the tummy design area, so we'll have to have a think about that. Thank you. Some needles, and then these, because I don't know what to call them. But yeah, speechless, sorry. I don't know what to say, but I am determined to find a way of using these. I'm thinking itty bitty teeny weeny Christmas decorations, obviously. Well, that seems like the obvious solution answer to me. Or some kind of little garland, so you string them together. I just need to work out how you would actually do it. So I'm presuming that if I stitch something this kind of size, which is teeny weeny, and then wrap the fabric around the back and pop it into the circular outer, like the, would you call that a bauble shape? And then I'm imagining, sorry, see me through this. Sorry, I'm imagining that just the thickness of the fabric, if you press that in, then the thickness of the fabric would hold it in place in there. And yeah, I have to think about it. If you know how to use these, you could let me know in the comments if you know how they're supposed to be used and put together. But I think I know how I can make it work. I think if you wrap the fabric around, it would wedge in place, and then you'd be able to have little ornaments or string them all together, maybe on some baker's twine and string them together as a little garland. Actually, like a word like, well, words like Merry Christmas or Season's Greetings or something like that would probably work really well. I don't know, Carrie, you've given me something to think about. It feels like a challenge. So I will think about it, and thank you very much, because it's very nice to have little finishing items, and yeah, I'll have to figure that one out, but thank you very much. So those were kindnesses and winnings, and all part of this lovely community that we have here, and I am very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for the gifts, but as I said, folks, please don't feel that you need to send anything. Leave me a comment, tell me you've enjoyed what you see, and have a chat with me in the comments too, and that is more than enough. Thanks. Especially as the world has gone crazy with postage charges, I feel so equally guilty and blessed that folks are sending things, but the postal charges are exorbitant. So yeah, it's enough to say thank you. It's enough to leave me a comment. It's beautiful that you're thoughtful enough to leave me or send me a gift, but it's not necessary. It's not necessary, okay? Thanks very much, everyone. I'm feeling a bit out of practice, can you tell? I think 3 weeks away, 3 and a bit weeks away is too long. And I feel out of practice in my conversation, out of practice in the flow. So hopefully it'll get better. I apologise. So maybe it's time now that we just move on to the stitching. First up, I don't have any fully finished pieces to share with you today, but I do have some finishes. I have more than I realised, actually, and when I sat down to pull everything together for this recording, there was a little bit more in my pile than I had originally thought. So the first finish that I have to share with you is the modern folk embroidery pattern that Jacob released for Ukraine. And it's called Mir, which means peace in Ukrainian. And this is his stunning design. I stitched this on a 32 count Murano in antique white, and I used 2 silky blendable threads. They're 12 weight cotton threads. You just need 1 strand of each. It's equivalent, 1 strand of the silky 12 weight is equivalent to 1.5 to 2 strand thickness of DMC. And the blendables is the name that Silky give to their very variegated threads. So I love this. I love how it finished. I love how the threads worked on this piece. It feels like very delicate variegation. I hope you can see. And now I need to figure out just exactly how I want to finish it. I'm going to have a wee look through my finishing box. I might just mount it for an easel, similar to the way that I do the La Finestra del Tempo pieces, or possibly find a small frame and pop in some fabric backing and then mount it on the frame anyway. So I was thinking of this beautiful yellow linea fabric. So it's a quilting cotton, and I think the colour works really very nicely with that. So I will figure something out and hopefully get that fully finished soon. That's my first finish. And then I did also finish the September month for La Finestra del Tempo. So, sorry. So I did also finish the September month for Crocette a Go-Go's La Finestra del Tempo. This is on the 3rd pattern, so this is a year of monthly stitches, and it's been released in 3 patterns with 4 months on each pattern. So this is the 3rd pattern, which starts with September, and this is part of the Finestra del Tempo SAL. So a few folks have joined me and are stitching these monthlies, and we are sharing them together on Instagram, and it's lovely to see everyone's work coming together, and we're only 3 months away now from the end of the SAL, and it's very exciting to see them all come together. So the September chart stitched up just like this. What do you think of that hedgehog? Isn't he adorable? And he's sitting on a toadstool. And right next to him is the house with the acorn on the top of the house up here, the acorn here. And here are the school books. I take it for a return to school, which September would mark normally. And I presume this one is a file. I think that looks like a file with the labels on the, so it's turned on its side. Acorns, leaves, a beautiful basket of mushrooms and apples. All the fruitfulness, the beginnings of autumn as the year moves into September. The colours were beautiful for this, and I loved the stitches. Loved, loved, loved them. So I need to fully finish that. I haven't quite got there. I've got a couple of fabrics from my stash that I'm considering for the backing of it. Let's see if I can hold that up so you can see. I think probably the top one is going to work better. The bottom one is perfect, but when you only see 1/4 of an inch of the fabric, let me see if I can explain this well. When you only see maybe, you know, 1/4 of an inch of the fabric down the sides on the mount, then you're going to miss a lot of that pattern. This is too big a pattern, I think. Sorry, my hands are in the way. So I think this one, this one here will be, yes, I think this one will show a little bit more pattern variation. So that's probably, this is the one I will finish it with for mounting on my flat boards, and then it's ready to go on the easel when September comes. So that is number 2. And then the 3rd finish I have, well, let me show you this as a series. Sorry, I'm looking away from the camera a lot today. Apologies. I have a little series of small stitches that I want to make into gifts. So probably little cushions or flat folds. And the first looks a bit wonky. Looks a bit wonky because obviously the fabric has not been cut straight, but the design is straight. And it says, "It's you I like." This is a piece of 25 count vintage sand dune Lugana, and I used a deep a thread. It's called Midnight, and I've forgotten. The thread is called Midnight. I think it's a Gentle Arts thread, and I added a border around it. So the pattern itself is available, I think, on an Instagram page by It Is Kismet, and Michelle Bendy Stitches, I think, helped her. I think it's Diana at It Is Kismet on Instagram. And Michelle Bendy Stitches helped to chart the words. So the words are the pattern. I added that little border just myself. And I'm hoping to make that into a gift and get it sent off. It is, I believe, a phrase from Mr. Rogers in the States, and he would use this phrase, you know, it's you I like. It's not about what you have to offer or who you are, what you are. It's just I believe that this is a phrase that Mr. Rogers used on his show many years ago. I don't know because we didn't have it here in the UK. But it's a phrase that he used just to say, you know, I like you for yourself. I don't like you for what you give to me, what you offer, what you bring to the table. I just like you for being you, which I think is wonderful. So I'm hoping perhaps to use this lovely numbers print. I think it's a Sweetwater fabric. And somehow back it either as a pillow or as a flat fold. I'm doing a bad job today, guys, I'm sorry. A pillow or a flat fold, and yeah, bad job. Anyway, hopefully it will look better than I'm making it appear at the moment. And then I have another few gifts that I want to make. And these should have been made a while ago, but I kind of sometimes get decision paralysis, especially when it's for other people. I have no problem knowing what I want to stitch for myself because the answer is most things. But when I want to stitch for other people, I think, oh, well, would they like that? And isn't that their colours and and what's their style? And sometimes you just need to go for it. You need to pick something pretty and just go for it. So, in my search for the something pretty, I found this freebie from the Fox and Rabbit Designs, the Cherry Monogram Pin Cushion, which I thought was very sweet. And the pattern freebie, which is downloadable, contains all of the letters of the alphabet. So you've got every monogram that you need. And I decided that I would stitch this up in some sulky threads. And I chose two blendables, which are the variegated, so a red and a green for the cherry and the leaves. And then I chose this sort of pale gold colour to stitch the initial in. So far I have two of these stitched. One is an S and one is a T. S and T. I hope you can see those. Sorry, there we go. Aren't they pretty? So I want to do one more, which will be J. Oh, sorry, that's S and J. And I want to do T as well. And then I would hope to be able to finish them off, not exactly like this, but something like this. A little bit of lace, buttons, trims to pretty it up and make it into a little pin cushion. So I have been really enjoying the sulky threads. Here they are again. They're quite hard to hold for you, but there they are. I've been enjoying using them. The green doesn't come out as strongly, but perhaps just because it's so small. The sections of green are so small on the pattern. Those have been fun, and I have a lovely piece of linen picked out for the last one, which will be the T. If you remember, because the J looks quite like T. And I'm gonna have to label it because when you see the pattern, they're very, very similar. Anyway, those were another couple of little finishes which I enjoyed stitching. And then I have a bigger finish, and the bigger finish is timely but just not completely finished, not fully finished for Easter. So this is the caterpillar cross stitch called Easter Blooms. I stitched it with colours that are similar to the suggested DMCs, except for where I have stitched lilac. So where you see lilac, the DMC for that on the pattern was a pale blue, but I didn't have any nice pale blues in my stash. So I did just stitch this one from stash. It's a 14 count mystery Ada, but it's some kind of cream. It's 14 count and the colours are my approximations of the called for. So, and as I said, I just changed the blue out to the lilac. I love it. I love the Easter egg shape of it. I do have a wooden Easter egg cut out, but it's too small actually. So I need to think about how I want to finish this one, because that Easter egg cutout won't work. But that's okay, because there is another Easter egg shaped design that might work if I choose the right size of fabric, and that will be for another year. So yes, this one unfortunately isn't ready for this Easter, given that we are now right in Easter weekend, but I'm enjoying the colours. I enjoyed the stitch very much, and I now have time to think about that, in the hope that I will actually have it finished and ready for display next Easter. So that is Easter Blooms. I keep wanting to say it's called Happy Easter, but it's not. It's called Easter Blooms, and it's by Caterpillar Cross Stitch. So my last finish is actually a start and finish. And as I mentioned when I was showing you Hive Rules, it's a bee piece. So it is the Beehive Sampler by Tiny Modernist. I've had this in my stash for quite a long time now. I think way back at the beginning of my return to cross stitch in 2020 or early 2021. I found this pattern and I loved it. So I had a bit of a hankering for something different last week, and I picked it out with the intention of just starting it. I thought I'll just do the border and those honeycomb bits at the top, and then I'll leave it, and that'll be a start, and it'll be nice, and I'll have scratched the itch for bees. But I didn't stop. Once I started to stitch it, I didn't stop, and I'm very glad I didn't, because it's lovely. So this is stitched on, let me get this right for you, a 28 count even weave by DMC in the colour Ecru. It was lovely fabric to stitch on. I know not everyone is a fan of even weave, but it was really very lovely to stitch on. Like funny sheen of that. There we go. I used colours again that were similar to those shown on the pattern, but not exactly. So I chose approximations really of everything except where I have pink, because on the chart itself that was more of a deeper purple colour. And first of all, when I did my first floss pull for this, I chose a lilac, like a medium lilac, not a deep purple, but a medium lilac. But when it actually came to stitching it, I changed my mind and I went with pink. So I am really thrilled with, I think I'm really just thrilled with the fact that I started and finished something quite quickly, because everything else seems to be taking me forever. But this was a very lovely stitch. Sorry, I'm a bit wobbly here. And yeah, I'm going to have some more bee stitches. So I don't know how I plan to finish this one just yet, because as I say, I do have plans for more bee stitches over time, not immediately, although Hive Rules is calling. So I think I will hold on to this one and then perhaps have a few bee stitches that I can make up together to sort of help them, make them coordinate with each other and figure out what way I want to mount them. Do I want to frame it, or that's a bit big for a pillow, this one, but frame it or make it into a flat fold or something like that. So yes, the jury is out on the final finish plan for this one, but I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So that was fun. It was fun to just take a diversion. Sometimes I'm very led by plans. I don't always talk about that in the rigid sense here, but I do plan the month out of my stitching in my diary. But as I've said before, whilst I'm a planner by nature, it's in my bones, it's in my work, it's in everything I do. I also acknowledge that stitching is my hobby, so I'm allowing myself a little bit of grace with that. And planning helps me to stay focused, but sometimes you just need to follow what your heart wants. And my heart wanted some bees. So bees we had. So that was a really nice stitch. And again, that is Tiny Modernist, the Beehive Sampler. If you are interested, not that I'm enabling anyone, any way, anything, any shape, any form. Don't buy it. Don't buy anything. Okay. Okay. So I do have some progress on other whips. There was a time in the last couple of weeks when I just didn't want to stitch at all. I have made up for it. And I do have plenty of stitching to show you, but there was just a period where there was too much else going on. My head was too full and I just couldn't put the needle and the thread together sensibly. So yes, things took a diversion. Some of the things in my plans I got to and some of them I didn't, but all is good. And yesterday and the day before, I managed to get back to my SAL of the Gentle Rain. So I really have enjoyed this project. Every time I pick it up, I love stitching on it. I just haven't been very good about actually picking it up. So this is a stitch along that I'm doing with Joanita from the Stitchy Things. The pattern is the Blue Flower, the Gentle Rain. And I'll hold it up closer so that you can see better. Sorry about the glare, it's not too bad, but there you go. So I spent a couple of afternoons and evenings on it this week. I'm stitching this on a 32 count Murano, which was white, but I have dyed, I don't know if you can see that. That's a better approximation of the colour. I dyed it with Dylon dyes, a peony pink dye, so it's got a lovely mottled pink look about it, sort of cloudy pinks. I'm stitching again with colours that are mostly called for, but I have had to make a few substitutions. So the main substitution I made was this colour here in the swirls and the raindrops, and that is a DMC variegated floss 4020, and it is in place of frosted sage, which at the time I was kitting up I wasn't able to get hold of. I'm very happy with how that variegation has worked. It is much stronger than the original floss, but I like it. I think it's working very well. And I had to use it again then down here in these little bluebell type flowers. And it's so pretty. So my work the last couple of days has been on this vase of daffodils. These flowers at the bottom of the tree, the lovely girl in her yellow Macintosh and her dog. Now, just if I can get this held up for you, have a look at the detail. She's got her hair in a ponytail with a band. The dog has got a little golden collar and a little golden link in his chain. I adore the detail that Janine McGowan puts into her patterns. Really beautiful. My only grumble about this is my own fault. And somehow over here on the daffodils I got, somehow on the daffodils I got to be half a stitch down. I'm half a stitch out and I didn't realise it until I got to the bottom. So I worked from the daffodil, I worked in placement off the tree. So that was landmarking off the tree and counting that way. So I started on the flowers of the daffodil and the stems, and then came down into the vase / urn. And it was only as I finished the bottom row that I realised I was half a stitch lower than the bottom line of the rest of the stitches. Anyway, I've got this face on, but I'm not changing it. So it's going to sit half a stitch lower. There is a similar urn on the other side of the pattern. So I'm going to have to see if I can, well, maybe drop it half a stitch as well. Would that help if they were both off kilter? Because you'd think half a stitch isn't that noticeable, but actually I think it is. It's strange, and I'm worried because everything else is finishing along the same line along the bottom, so I don't know. Anyway, hopefully I'll remember, and hopefully it won't be too hard to drop the other one just by half a stitch. So it doesn't impact anything. I mean, it doesn't impact anything else greatly. And I'm just looking at the other side of the pattern. I don't think it gets quite, the daffodil on the other side of the pattern gets quite close to the crane, or the heron, sorry. So I don't know, maybe that would make a difference, I don't know. Anyway, I just hope that I'm savvy enough to remember to do it, and smart enough to do it neatly. So that was a shame, but as I said, I wouldn't, if I'd started at the bottom and worked up, that would have been one thing, but the counting was easier from the tree over to the daffodils than it was at this stage over to the urn. So that was the decision making, and that's how it went. So anyway, it could have been much worse. It doesn't impact very many of the other aspects of the design, and I'm sure that I can fudge it somehow. So that was the Gentle Rain. And then my next stitch along that I am participating in is Heartfelt SAL by Fat Quarter Shop. This is their charity stitch along for the year for raising funds for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, pardon me, got hiccups. And it is released in 5 parts or 6 parts? 6 parts. Part 1 with the borders, and then the 5 columns are released 1 column at a time thereafter. So we're on part 3, and here's my finish. Again, this is a fabric that I dyed with the Peony Pink Dylon. I think it's a 16 count Ada. Yes, 16 count Ada, and those are the called for flosses. Are they? Yeah, called for flosses. Sorry, I was doubting myself. So I love this design, and I love this stitch along because it is manageable. It is 2 nights of an hour and a half, 2 hour stitching a night per column. I'm not the fastest stitcher in the world, so yeah, it's quite nice. I think 2 nights for a SAL in the month is good. So this is released monthly. Sometimes the Fat Quarter Shop SALs are a big commitment. This one is just a nice size for right now. So Heartfelt. I'm looking forward to the next part, which will be released on the first Friday in May. So I've got a couple of weeks where I don't need to do any more on that. That's good. I then had a little bit of progress on Kindness Matters. This is another beautiful stitch by Frog Cottage Designs by Deb. And it's called Kindness Matters. I am going to show you, probably won't see a huge difference. I think I have an extra couple of letters in here and a little bit more of the border across the top. So it's not huge progress, but it is some. So you can see that it looks quite a lot darker in real life than it does in the photograph, but it's still very beautiful. Enjoying that one too. You'll notice that I've put some of my work back onto frames. I love stitching in hand. I really do love stitching in hand, but I am beginning, because I'm using a little bit more linen than I have in the past, I'm beginning to get a little bit concerned. Stitching in hand is making it terribly, terribly wrinkled and crushed, and I'm worried about my ability to get the wrinkles and crushed, the wrinkles out when the time comes. So I'm trying to stitch in hand. The other thing I was wondering about was if I stitched in hand and put it in and had a frame again, would I be able to stitch a little bit faster? So I don't know. I don't know how slow I really am. I feel like I'm a slow stitcher. I don't need to be a supersonic stitcher. It's not like I model stitch for anybody or anything like that, but I think it would be nice sometimes to feel like I'm making a little bit more progress of an evening, and I can do two-handed stitching if my work is in a frame. So I might see if I can get a frame as well and give it a go. Anyway, that's just to mention in case you wonder, because I haven't shown frames very often, and it's because I have been teaching myself to stitch in hand. I use hoops more for embroidery than on cross stitch fabric, but sometimes, as you know, for example, Glitter Village, I mentioned on my last video that I find that using the hoop opened up the holes on the fabric for Glitter Village better. So anyway, it's all just, I can stitch in all of those ways. I'm just trying to find, is there a better way? Is there a more productive way? I think I'm feeling the pressure of all the big projects that I have on the go and wanted to maybe move a little bit faster through some of them. So we'll see. Next up, I did another little bit on the Heartstring Samplers My Necessity. There we go. It's a band sampler all on a coffee theme. It's going to be an anniversary gift to my hubby later in the year. And I stitched another couple of bands. So I think I had this one maybe just about started last time I showed you. So I finished that one and then added in the next one at the bottom there. So a band or two a month, and I am getting there. I am making the progress that I need. There are only 3 bands left. So the last row of text, which is I'd Be Lost Without You, and then the 2 pattern bands underneath. And then this will be finished, and I need to start thinking about how I'm going to frame or finish it in time for our anniversary in the autumn. So yeah, enjoying that still very much. Stitched on a 32 count Murano in silver grey with DMC 3371, which is like a brown black colour. And I always tell you that the little cafetiers and filter pots are my absolute favourites. I think I should probably try stitching those on some of the buttons for the sampler jar, which I've been very lax about and haven't stitched any more of. Anyway, that is my necessity. And then I decided it was time to tackle my oldest whip again. It's a long story, and you may have heard it before if you're lucky enough So my oldest whip is from 2006. So yes, you can do the math. 16 years old. And it is this Dimensions kit, Oh Holy Night Advent Calendar. I haven't stitched anything on the Ada fabric yet. I'm still very much working on the little ornaments, which are these, which are stitched on a plastic canvas. So here we are. I'm gonna, sorry, put the board behind it and then it looks a bit better. So I stitched this one and most of this one. So it's progress. Look, there's only 3 more spots and a little bit of her dress and sashing to do. I also backstitched this one, which I've got to say in this light is looking okay because I backstitched it. I thought, right, I'll stitch some of these and I'll start trying to catch up with the backstitching, because silly me, I didn't do it at the time that I stitched the ornaments. And I stitched this one, this little, I think it's a goat. I backstitched it, added all the detail in, and as I was putting it away that evening, I thought, that's not right, that's the wrong thread. And indeed it is. So these two are backstitched in a darker brown than this one. So I got muddled up with my threads and I chose the wrong thread. Now when I look at it like this, I think that some of the detail is missing off the goat itself. So the eye, but actually on the screen here, the eye is visible. Some of the shaping of the haunches and things like that. But actually it's okay. So I'm not going to fiddle with it. I'm going to leave it alone. It's not the end of the world. It's one little ornament, and yeah, it's not a masterpiece. So I will leave it alone. I was just a little bit annoyed with myself, but actually looking at it from a distance like that, it's not so bad. It's very funny because when I look at it down like this, those details disappear on the face of the goat and the bunny rabbit, but they're perfectly, yeah, you can see the bunny has an eye too, so you can't see that when you look down on it. But anyway, as it's an advent calendar that is going to hang upright, hopefully people will be able to see it and will be looking down on it eventually. So there you go. So I have almost 22 of the little ornaments stitched, and then I'm hoping that I will continue to give this some monthly love and attention, because it would be very nice if at some point it was no longer my oldest whip, and if my oldest whip could be a lot younger than 16 years. So as I said in a previous video, this was purchased when Andrew was little, with a view to making it for him that year. I don't know what I was thinking, but anyway, he would have been 5, and he's now 20, so I don't think Andrew's going to need it, but Charlotte will enjoy it, and even if it's not ready for another couple of years, I think she'll still enjoy it. So yeah, I am determined to keep going on this, even just a little bit at a time. And there's Jolly July coming up, so I might factor it in there as well and try to get these little ornament parts finished and get on to stitching on the actual fabric, which in itself is quite a big design. I know this part's mainly just a grid and some border, but up here this is pretty much full coverage in all of that. So yeah, I will keep plodding along, and one day it may not be my oldest whip. So this is the bag that stores this whip, and I'm showing you this now. I'll show you it again later, because this is a sampler, obviously a blackwork sampler, blackwork and cross stitch sampler, and today I am going to share the pattern for that, so it's going to be available for one of you if you would like to have it. So I'll show it again in a few minutes, but there, you can think about it while I keep chatting. Okay, so that is all of my whips and all of my finishes for the last 3 and a bit weeks. So I think I've done quite well, especially given that I had a kind of paralysed week in the middle where I didn't really pick up the needle very much at all. And I enjoyed that. As stitchers, one of the things that we do as well as stitch is make decisions on our fabric, decisions on the design, decisions on the fabric for that design, on the flosses. Now sometimes we like to just do what the designer says. So we choose the same fabric, we choose the same flosses. Sometimes we don't have that option because we can't access the called for fabric or flosses, or perhaps we just want to make it different for ourselves. Or perhaps we start the other way around and we have a piece of fabric and we want to work out what could we do with this piece of fabric. So bear with me. So if you remember, on the last video, I showed you this beautiful, beautiful piece of fabric that I was gifted by Terry, and it's called Funfair. It is a 32 count. I think it's an even weave. It's either a linen or an even weave. Either way, it's absolutely stunning. Sorry, I've got the pin stuck on it. Here we go. I'm going to try and put it on the board now so that you can see. Here is Funfair in all its glory. So sometimes we start with our fabric and think, what could I do with this? What would look good on this? What would work on this? What will I use this for? Lots of decision making. And I thought that I might share a little bit of that process with you. So I hope you don't find this boring. But I did ask, when I showed it last time, I did ask what your thoughts were in terms of thread colour and design, and some of you were very kind and engaged in that. There were lots of votes for green floss, for purple floss, and for monochromatic designs, basically. So I think that I agree with the comments that suggested that I choose a monochromatic design and one that was quite open, so not something with dense stitching, because the more dense the stitching on this fabric, the more the fabric gets covered up and you won't see the beautiful changes in colour, the variegation. That will all be lost beneath stitching. So I do want something that won't be too closed, to allow the fabric to shine, really. And this fabric really does demand attention. So again, when in my opinion, and there's more than one way, but this has to be something that I would want to stitch on and to use and to have. So in my opinion, I don't want a floss that's going to compete with the fabric. I don't want to use 7 different flosses, and because I think that would get lost on this fabric. So I think that a limited palette will work, which is why I think monotone will work, single floss, maybe 2. And again, with the design being something open and even weave. So those would be my thoughts, and those of you who were kind enough to comment sort of corroborated that idea. I wanted to show you some of the flosses because I was having a look. I don't have any really decent greens in my stash. I tend to buy greens for leaves and trees. It hasn't been a colour that I stitch in very often, so I notice that is quite lacking in my stash. There's that sulky, so I'm not sure. So I think the fact that my stash is bereft of the greens probably tells me that the green is not the way that I would go, but could well look very beautiful on this in any case. There were lots of suggestions for purple colors, purple shades. So this one is DMC number 35, and it's quite a magenta kind of purple. And I think you can see that that would work quite well. It would be very deep against the fabric. And the fabric, as you can see, ranges from sort of quite acidic lemon through peach and coral into corally pinks, back into deeper yellows and oranges. It's absolutely stunning. The colours in it are amazing. So I think that would work really quite well. And you can see if you move it around that it looks different on different parts of the fabric. So I think with a very variegated piece of fabric like this, that's what you want to do with your floss, is think, well, will it work on all of the areas if I have to stitch a whole piece, or if I'm only going to stitch a small on it and cut, say, that piece out, is that the right piece for the floss, or should I be better cutting a piece off here, or what do I like better? Which piece do I like best? And it's nice to ask opinions, but ultimately the decision should be yours because you're going to live with it. So anyway, that is the purple. There were also suggestions for, so anyway, that is the purple. I then went a shade or two lighter and looked at this shade, which is 3350, which is quite a raspberry kind of pink. And I like this one. I thought this was lovely. And again, if I move it around all the different variegation of colour, I think this would work really well. It's not as dark as the purpley shade. So I'm trying to get it so that you can see just this little discussion on the choices. I'm just trying to get it so you can see. So it's not as deep as this one, but I think it would work really well also. Some of you suggested trying teal. So I had a couple of shades of teal, and I think as a very contrasting colour, yes, this would work. And again, it would work on all the different areas. I think that would be very nice. And then as I went through my box of DMC, I came across these 3 shades of what I would call coppery, orangey red colours. So I've got, the palest one is number 21. These are all DMC. Next I have number 22. And then this is 3777. This, I believe, is Jacob's favourite red, DMC red. I know he's a big fan of Falou Red by Leo and Roxy Floss now. But there we go. So I think those are absolutely stunning with this fabric. I think that individually, if you only were choosing one, they all could work. Not having very much luck today. Excuse me. Okay, let's try this again. So individually, you see, I'm gonna unwrap them slightly so that you see a length of floss against the fabric. I think those will be perfect. And I find that was quite unexpected. I was not thinking of a coppery red colour. when I first went diving for floss. So I think something in those colours will be what I will go for in the end, and quite possibly the deeper one, the 3777. I think it will stand out against all of those, all of the mixture of colours in that fabric. So if I say that I'm going to stitch with this one, what would I stitch? Would I stitch? Okay. So once we've thought about the fabric and the floss, then I was thinking, well, what would I stitch on this? And because I want something open and monochrome, my head immediately went to modern folk embroidery, long dog samplers, that kind of thing. Now I did have a look at long dog, and the problem with long dog for me is that they're actually quite dense. They're not as open as you think. They are, a lot of the designs are monochrome, but they are pretty full. Not actually full coverage, but they're pretty full. So really on this fabric you would end up not seeing very much at all of the fabric, which seems a shame to cover it all up since it's the star of the show. And then I was having a look at my modern folk embroidery patterns, and the ones that I already have purchased are quite traditional red samplers. Any that I haven't stitched up already, they're quite traditional red samplers, and they just didn't feel right to me. They probably would look good on this, but not how I want those samplers to look in the end. I had a look at the website to see if there were any others, ones that I don't yet own, and I think there were a couple of contenders. One was, I wondered about Kindness and Fortitude, which is one of Jacob's Quakers. So I wonder if a Quaker that's not too dense might look nice on this. I'll insert a picture of Kindness and Fortitude, and if you have to think, you have to translate quite a bit because it's so subtle in the grey and the white stitches, but I think it would look good. And then recently, on her most recent video, Ilonka from Stitch Ilonka had finished Fracture Bird, which is a modern folk embroidery pattern, and she only stitched the top part, which is the bird, the two lovebirds themselves. There is an alphabet below, which makes it a long sampler, but I thought actually it was really stunning with just the birds. And I think that could look really good on this piece of fabric. Another thought I had was that my recent acquisition of Sampler 106 from 2x2 Stitch Art on Etsy could look really good on this. Now, I had to think about this, but I was thinking sunset kind of background and swallows flying across, and I would only stitch that part of the pattern. However, to achieve that on this fabric, I would have to stitch 1 over 1 because it's so big. It's 415 long. So yeah, it would have to be 1 over 1. So I'm not sure, but I thought I would just mention it as part of the thought process. If you could see that very dark copper then that very dark copper red thread, and you know, the birds and the vines and the plants, and lots of the fabric showing through. I think it would be stunning. Have to invest in better magnifiers and get on to the 1/1 on 32 count. But anyway, it was just a little chat about the decisions we make and the options that we have, and I have no idea what I will do with this in the end. I do think it will be one of these 3 colours that I choose, probably the darker ones, to stitch something on, and I'll keep you posted. Again, it's not happening in a hurry, but yeah. And if you can think of anything that I should stitch on this, you could let me know. If you can think of any suggestions, things I may not have considered, give me a little comment down below and let me know where I should look. So anyway, it has been fun. I hope that it wasn't too boring to follow that thought process. So it's always fun choosing. Sometimes I can tie myself in knots about making the decisions on something, but in particular, this piece of fabric was fun. It was out of my normal range of fabrics, and I really would like to see it stitched up one day with something stunning on it, that really allows the fabric to sell itself. So I'll be keeping my eyes and my little brain ticking over to see what else I could stitch, what else might be an option for that. I've got probably about 16 years before I need to get to it, given that I've got a pile of other projects over there, and you know, I'm still finishing one from 16 years ago. So don't hold your breath. But I thought it was fun just to take a little look at the process and how my brain works, and you can let me know if yours works differently. If you find it easy choosing fabrics and designs, or designs to match the fabric, especially if you're in a club, you know, that would be one of the things I would think about if I was in a fabric club. What if I get a fabric I'm not used to choosing? How would you use it then? You know, so these things, you know, some of you must have to think about. If you've got tips and tricks, you can let me know. So that is pretty much it for all of my actual stitching. I do have plans, so I have plans to keep going with my necessity, maybe another band or 2, because as I said, there's only 3 bands to go. I want to pick up the family patchwork, that is the Modern Folk Embroidery's 2020 SAL, which I have been making some progress on, but I haven't picked it up this month yet, so I'd like to spend maybe next weekend stitching on that to keep that moving along. The Oh Holy Night Advent I have planned for 3 or 4 days worth of stitching this coming week. Not very seasonal, but you'll have noticed that I stitch Christmas all times of the year. So yes, trying to keep that one moving along. Glitter Village is in the hoop, ready for some stitching tonight with low light, just to keep the shine off that sparkle fabric. And I want to do one more of the Cherry Monogram pincushion tops, so that I can then work on that. Sorry, wobbling the table by accident. Yes, one more of the Cherry Monogram designs, and then I will be able to make up all those little cushions, because I'm going to try and make them up all together. And I would like to fully finish those pillows, those Monogram pillows, the It's You I Like, and the mirror design as well. So and La Finestra del Tempo September stitch. As well as all of that, I have this waiting in the wings for me. Dun, dun, dun. Can you tell what it is yet? So this is going to be the red, white and the blue is for bunting. So I have been charged with making a lot of bunting. Look, yeah, a lot of bunting for school. So the little school that I work in is planning a celebration day for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee at the end of May. Her Jubilee's just at the beginning of June, but the school's having the celebration at the very end of May just because of timetabling. So we are going to decorate the school hall with a red, white and blue bunting. And I have a sewing machine, so that's my job. So yes, sometime this afternoon I will start to draw triangles on the back of fabric, and hopefully this week coming I will start to whiz some triangles through the machine. So it will be fun and festive, and the children always really enjoy all of the shenanigans that go on up at the school. So I am honoured to have been asked to help out with this, and I only hope that I can get it done on time. So I do have until the end of May, but it's a lot of triangles, so wish me luck. Anyway, as I said, I have this pattern to share with you, the one that is on my project bag. So this used to be in a frame, and then I wasn't using it anymore. I put it away, didn't want it, it didn't match decor, but I hated the fact that it wasn't being seen or used, so I popped it as a panel into this project bag, and I love it because I see it all the time now. Well, all the time when I work on this. I see it all the time when I rifle through my box of whips. Anyway, it was a lovely, lovely pattern to stitch. And it is a design from the V&A Museum collection by DMC. It came as a kit. I don't have any of the packaging, so I'm sorry about that. But I do have the card which has instructions on it, and I have the chart. The chart is in good condition. It's slightly wrinkled, it's just been lightly used. But the folds, all the stitching on the folds is still very legible, and the floss key is for DMC threads because this was a DMC kit. So there are only eight threads required for stitching this if you want to do it in the called for colours. So I'll let you see this up close. As I said, it's a V&A Museum piece. It doesn't have a name, unfortunately. So for the share, what we'll do is we will use the word blackwork, because as I said, it is part blackwork, part cross stitch. So let's use the word blackwork, all one word, B-L-A-C-K-W-O-R-K. Just tell me that you would like to stitch the blackwork, or blackwork looks like fun, or something like that, if you're interested in having this chart pass along to you, shared with you. Okay? All the usual rules apply. That is, I will post this internationally, so please enter no matter where you live. Please be 18 or over so that I can ask for your address. There's no affiliation to YouTube. This is just me sharing a pattern that I am finished with. And don't use words like share, win, prize, giveaway, anything like that, just to keep the bots out and to keep this in the hands of someone who actually wants to stitch it, not someone who's just trying to resell it and make some money. So if you're interested, drop me a comment below, use the word blackwork, and I will do a draw just before my next video, which very much hope will be in another 2 weeks, not 3, because I'm very rusty and hard to practice when I wait 3. And I miss you. I miss the connection. I miss the conversation that we have. You have pardoned me today. I don't know. hiccups galore, so excuse me. So yes, I missed the connection and the conversation, and 3 weeks was too long for me. So I hope to be back in another 2 weeks, but we'll see how that goes. And but I'm writing it in my diary, and that is my intention. So all that remains now is for me to wish you all a very happy Easter. If you celebrate Easter, then I wish you God's peace, God's blessing and reassurance in the newness of life that He has offered us through His Son, Jesus Christ. And if you don't celebrate Easter, then I just wish you every blessing anyway. I love you all for sharing this journey with me, and it has been very special. My 1 year Flosstube anniversary is next month, so I will get my thinking cap on and we'll do something fun for that, so that I can thank you for all of your support to me during this year. So as I said, have a lovely Easter. We're having Sunday lunch tomorrow with my dad and Alan's parents, and they will enjoy getting to see Andrew. We'll have to waken him up out of his nocturnal pattern tomorrow and get him to come down for Sunday lunch. But it will be a fun Sunday afternoon with family. But there are no other particular plans for the rest of the Easter break. We're just going to enjoy next week before school goes back and I go back to work at the school and all of that kind of thing. So until the next time, which as I said hopefully won't be too long, please stay well and stitch happy.